I do not believe what Jeremy Taché just alleged. I will have to check the video proof, but he is saying that last night, Myers Leonard of the Milwaukee Bucks, because Caleb Martin made a three and Myers Leonard is a bit of a meathead, he stood up and held up three fingers because he forgot which team he was on. He forgot in the Heat's arena that he was no longer a Miami Heat member. I just don't
It's damning video.
He could have maybe been throwing up his hands to say, hey, play better defense, but it did look like he had three fingers.
And then he kind of sits down awkwardly like,
he's
oh,
a
wait.
little awkward. It's been a long couple of years for
Who do you think?
Three finger is a dangerous gesture for that player in particular.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
A lot
Absolutely.
of random people on the Bucks bench. Goran Dragic, that was a weird one for me to say, sitting
Well said.
randomly. Who do you think he's rooting for, Goran? Because I'm telling you, he had a look
His
last
team.
night. I'm telling you, Jeremy, or maybe I had a source at the arena last night tell me that Goran walked in and was saying hi to all the Heat people. All the Heat people. It definitely wasn't Jeremy who told me that. It was a different source.
That is the worst.
I want to see video of that Jerry West game where someone made I guess there were no threes then, but I like to think of a three and a foul and him holding up his hand and us being confused about whether he's holding up a four or not. Because we were just talking, Mike Schur, about Jerry West playing a game with two broken thumbs, and we were imagining that he had to have had 30 turnovers in that game because you cannot play a basketball game at the professional level.
It was very much a catch and shoot scenario. For
He had
Jerry
37
West
and
in that
18
game.
assists, by the way.
We were power ranking fingers, Mike.
Yeah, I heard that, and I'm on Pablo's side here. The thumb,
Thank you.
famously the most important finger in all scenarios.
About least important.
I mean, we're talking pinky. Pinky.
Ring finger, probably.
Yeah, ring.
No, I
Pablo.
think ring finger for shooting a basketball. I think it's the ring finger.
But what about
Great-
for
great-
everything
great
else?
conversation,
But what
though.
about for everything else?
What are we talking about? What's the most important
gotta
finger
lose a
besides
finger.
the thumb?
You have
Yeah,
to
what is a pinky
you-
good for? Licking it and then flattening your eyebrow? What else it's doing?
It's opposing the thumb. It's on the other side of the
Seriously,
thumb. For
what's happening?
stability, you need a pinky. Like you need a pinky toe for balance. you
Value
need a
over
pinky
replacement finger. The pinky. That ring can do all that opposing stuff. I just need the thumb.
How did you experience last night as a national hater of the Miami Heat, Mike Schur?
What do you mean? How did I experience it? I've been telling you this was going to happen for months and months. You know, here's what happened last night. The Heat proved me right and all of you jamokes wrong, except for the only two rational people at Meadowlark
That's
Media.
right.
Thank you.
Parakeet Cortez and Jeremy Taché.
What?
The
Yep.
only two sane, rational people in that entire company. Like, I demand a public apology from all of you jamokes. All of you
Mike.
except for Parakeet and Taché owe me a public apology for doubting me and saying that your team wasn't going to do anything in the playoffs. Now, I want it now, publicly.
No,
now.
I will not do it until they've actually won the series. I will apologize to you.
Haven't they already proved me correct? Haven't
What
was I saying?
Not why winning one home game that they were trailing by double digits the entire time and had an unprecedented fourth quarter from an unprecedented player. The first three games of the series, they were up 2-1 because Giannis didn't play. Like that. I mean, it's not irrelevant.
It's the point is, I've been saying since the middle of the season, the team I didn't want to play in the playoffs was the Miami Heat, and you all laughed at me.
You'd rather
You said it
play.
was
You'd
absurd.
rather play
He's
the
right,
Sixers. You'd rather play the Sixers.
Of course I would. Of course. Are you kidding? Of course I would. I'd rather play the Bucks. I want the Bucks to win. I would rather play any team except that collection of lunatics that runs around crypto arena and wins games they have no business winning, which they've done all year. They practice the dark arts. They are not a normal basketball team.
They haven't done it all year. They've lost half
Now,
of
Mike,
their games.
Mike, to his credit, has most consistently been the guy in the horror movie who is warning everybody that the killer is coming, and everyone's just like laughing at him.
Yes. I've been doing this publicly on your little show. I've been doing it privately in texts.
So many texts
So many texts
from Mike
to
Schur
so many
about
people. Yes, I've done it when they've lost terrible games. I've done it when they've looked like they had no business being anywhere near the playoffs. I did it after they lost. After they lost the first play-in game, it was like, thank God, thank God, thank God, get them out of my face. I don't want to face them. Like I don't know what else I can do to prove to you that I know what I'm talking about when it comes to your stupid team.
Put me next to you last night as the fourth quarter is happening, and as a basketball aficionado and observer, explain to me what you saw from Jimmy Butler last night in historical context.
I saw what I knew I was going to see, which was against all odds, defiantly in the face of logic and reason, Duncan Robinson, who forgot how to shoot 3 years ago, hit 3 threes in 4 minutes, and every loose ball goes their way, and Jimmy Butler can't miss. And I watched it with like a sad resignation, with like a sort of knowing, nodding, and like a shrug of the shoulders, because it's exactly what I thought was going to happen. I left. They were up, whatever it was, 11 in the fourth quarter, and I left to walk my dogs, and my wife said to me, do you want to watch the rest of this game? And I said to her, I am not kidding. No, I know what's going to happen. And I came back and looked at my phone, and there were 8 people texting me saying, OMG, OMG, what is happening? What a collapse. And I had no reaction. I'm dead inside, Dan. I had no reaction at all. My face betrayed no emotion as I nodded sadly at what was unfolding, which is exactly what I knew was going to unfold.
And this right here is why my cat's name is Mose.
Mike Schur, you're not allowed to be unsurprised by a Wilt Chamberlain 56-point.
Why? I go look, check the tape, LeBatard. How many? Like, what have I been saying? How much more do I have to do to prove to you that I knew that was going to happen?
He's been saying
go
it,
back
Dan.
and check the tape. I've been saying it for months.
Mike, you can't be unsurprised by him having no help and scoring 56 efficiently.
He's telling you he was, though.
You can't, but you're not allowed to be unsurprised by that.
Why?
Because how
Why?
many games have you ever seen that look like that? Ever?
What difference does that make when I told you it was going to happen?
There's only
You're the one who's not allowed to be saying this to me. I can say this to you.
There's only
You
one
can't
way to
say-
settle this, Mike. Let's take a vote. Can he be surprised or can he not be surprised? I vote that he doesn't have to be surprised. He doesn't.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Put it on the damn poll.
Yep.
Is Mike Shore allowed to be not surprised?
I was texting Mike like fun photos from this game again that I went to, strolled over with Samson and Juju and Taylor, and he was just giving the thumbs down emoji response consistently. It was sad.
Every single text, thumbs down. Thumbs down to all of it.
Let's go ahead and do the stat of the day.
Start of the day, start of the day.
No one else voted.
It is the start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day. It is the start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day. It is the start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day. It is the start of the day.
You know what I want? I just figured out what I want. Take the Amin Knows Basketball intro and dub in Juju's voice saying Mike Shore over Amin. That's what I want. That's what I want this intro to be now.
Can you be clear on what's going to happen in this series? Go ahead and say it now since you're unsurprised. Go ahead and tell me what's going to happen the rest of this series.
The Bucks are going to win Game 5, and then they're going to go back to Miami, and the Bucks will be up 8 points with 6 minutes left, and then the Heat will win. That's what's going to happen.
He's right.
What's the stat of the day?
Well, it's Tuesday. You know what that means. It's time for Sports Roundup Tuesday. We do this every Tuesday on the Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz. Sports Roundup. Here's some interesting things since the last time I talked to you. The Tampa Bay Rays are now 14-0 at home to start the year. That is the 4th longest home win streak to start a season, according to the great Sarah Langs on Twitter. The last team to start 14-0 at home at the beginning of the year, of course, you remember it's the 1886 Detroit Wolverines, led by Pretzels Getzian Lady Baldwin, and Phenomenal Smith. Their incredible pitching staff. Those are all real names.
Mike, what are you shaking your head no about? Those are real names.
He made all of those up.
No, they're not made
Pretzels?
up. No, they're not. They're not.
Phenomenal?
Well, Pretzels has got to be a nickname.
Sounds like Joe Biden friends.
Pretzels has got
gets in. Phenomenal
Corn Pop?
Smith. Lady Baldwin. That was their pitching staff. They also had Jack McGeechee. You remember him, of course. Ned Hanlon, Hardy Richardson, Deacon White, Dan Brothers. You know the Wolverines, the 1886 Wolverines. You guys remember that?
I keep sending Mike Shore just screenshots of fourth inning Rays up 8-0 in every game they're playing.
Every game. Also on your sports roundup, the Kings, my beloved Kings, came 1 Harrison Barnes 3 away from lighting the beam in San Francisco. That was painful. The Detroit Bruins won a pivotal Game 4 in front of a revved-up home crowd at TD Garden. Those Bruins home ice fans are really something, aren't they, guys? I mean, I would not want to be a visiting team at TD Garden for a playoff game like the Panthers were in Game 4. Man, that is a hostile environment over there at TD Garden. So many fans screaming so loudly, chanting. Woof.
Thanks, Mike.
Tough environment for the Panthers to play on the road. Let's say the Twins beat the Yankees 6-1. Twins and Yankees already played 5 times this year. The Twins are 3-2. So here's what's happening. The Twins have 2 chances to clinch the season series against the Yankees. They have not won a season series against the Yankees since 2001. That is their only series win against the Yankees since 1993. Since the year 2002, the Twins are 41-100 against the Yankees, which is a .291 winning percentage. In that same time frame, the Detroit Lions have a .358 winning percentage. So for 2 decades, the Twins have played the Yankees worse than the Lions have played the rest of the league in football.
Mike, good talking to you. I'm sorry. I'm going to say goodbye. The entire group was not listening to you at all because Stephen A. Smith was doing his top 5 list of all-time NBA playoff
Stephen's
performances.
A-list.
And they were hoping that Jimmy Butler would be number 1. Alas, he wasn't in the top 5. 63 for Michael, number 1. Jay Glazer is going to be on with us here in a moment. And since, Stugotz, you're so interested in the draft and you're covering the holy hell out of it on God Bless Football, what are the things beyond quarterbacks that you're interested in? Or is it just the general draft is here and I get to celebrate football in April?
Just the draft. I mean, that's really what I'm interested in. Mel and Todd and
big boards.
The big boards, the mock draft, Boomer, Chris Berman taking you through draft night. Is he still doing that?
Best
I'm
available.
not sure. Yeah.
Best available.
The outfits, the hugging of Roger Goodell, the
Who
handshake.
Aaron Rodgers is going to tell the Jets to take with the 15th pick in the first round. I mean, this is going to be exciting.
Who tied signs to pitch their product the week before. All these things.
Walking from the green room to the stage.
Who believes in Richardson? Who believes in Levis? I mean, it's amazing.
The fourth thing that you mentioned as being most interesting to you, is it a thing that we know is still happening? Is Chris Berman still involved with the NFL draft coverage in any way whatsoever?
If he's not, he should be.
They're like three people removed. It was Wingo after Berman. And now
I think
Wingo's
Berman,
gone.
I'm pretty certain Berman came back and started doing it again because Greeny couldn't host everything.
No, it was Greeny. Last year was Greeny. It was Wingo before that.
Well, Greeny's doing the playoffs.
You were
now,
wait.
right?
You were thinking that Greeny couldn't host everything?
Berman comes back for the Super Bowl, like the Super Bowl celebration, the post-game Super Bowl. That's what Berman does.
Right. Yeah. We'll see.
Jay Glazer loves this time of year in a way that I do not. So you guys got your questions? You got your questions fired up for Jay? What kind of secret information can he give us? It's lying season, Jay. It's always nice seeing you. Thank you for making the time. As always, what's the good information you've got at quarterback? Tell us, because
obviously, one, it's Bryce Young. That's where they're going. I think that, people are trying to smoke screen it right now that they're not. And that's really – there's a big drop-off for everybody. Kind of everybody's bored. It was Bryce Young first, and then even though he's got a smaller frame, but it's interesting because, like, Houston at 2, that's the guy they wanted. They weren't able to move up for him. Obviously, that's who Carolina wanted. That's who the Raiders wanted. That's who everybody kind of wanted him. And when they didn't, get in the sweepstakes with the Bears, there's just a big drop-off over there. So even like 2 right now, I know today they're going to have their own mock draft in Houston and trying to figure out what they're going to do. And I think at this point, too, you try and almost fall in love with someone, especially when you're in that position. If you can't trade out. Now, here's the thing. People are going to try and trade out. There's going to be a lot of that. I just don't see a lot of teams wanting to really move up at this point into the top 3. But, things change here in the next 48 hours.
Jay, a mock draft when you have the number 2 pick seems odd, right?
Can't be very exciting.
Weird.
A what? A mock draft when you have the number 2 pick?
Yeah, like Bryce Young's off the board. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Mock draft
So then
done.
you got everybody else, except that your guy is gone. Yeah. So, no, you kind of –
damn it, we wanted Young. And then they all fall to their knees as a franchise.
What do we do? What I say about a mock is that they'll have different people in the room kind of give what they want, who they think you can go. So you have obviously CJ Stroud, you have Will Levis, you have Richardson, you have 2 defensive ends over there. Jalen Carter. So it's not just one person. It's not just Nick Caserio gives his, okay, this is who I want. So you kind of, you do that, and everybody does their mock drafts. Here's the crazy thing about the draft, gang. You'd think that like everybody has their stuff done up to this point, and they don't. And things change. I'll give you a story here. Like Dallas Cowboys one year, they tell me, hey, we're definitely going Sean Merriman. That's our guy. Sean Merriman. The night before that, I said, you guys still on Merriman? Yep, we're on Merriman. Draft day, they wake up, they call, and they said, yeah, we're going to come off Sean Merriman today. We're going to go to DeMarcus Ware. I'm like, what happened the last 364 days? And they literally changed that day. And that happens an awful lot. It happens when guys are on the clock. And that's why whenever you see mock drafts, they're completely full of shit because these guys don't know what they're doing, and they change so much in these last, 72, 48, 24 hours. It's amazing how much change happens. And I think a lot of it, George Young, the great George Young, used to have a line, paralysis by overanalysis. You think you have everything set, then you start, let's go back in and start questioning it some more, and then all of a sudden you flop in what you're trying to do.
Put it on the poll, please, Juju at LeBatard Show. Can you say George Young without saying the great George Young?
That is my guy.
Yeah,
Let me tell you something about George Young.
Yeah,
okay?
please.
When I first started this business, right, man, I was getting crushed, especially by people in the Giants because I was covering the Giants. And George Young would protect me. But George Young, when I first started covering the NFL, George Young never had a drop of alcohol in his life. And Dan, you know me, I'm not the one who's going to wake up early and have coffee. I'm the guy who's going to be there with everybody at the bar until 4 o'clock in the morning. And George Young would sit there with me at the owners meeting in the bar till it closes to just validate me to everybody else saying, hey, he's a good kid. You could trust him. So that is my guy forever.
The great George Young.
There you go.
Yes.
The greatest.
Jay, you don't think the Texans are actually going to pass on taking a quarterback, right? There's no way they think Davis Mills is the answer.
No, I don't think they think Davis Mills is the answer either. But it's kind of, if you're not in love with these guys, then you're stuck with somebody you're not in love with. And, the problem, too, is like the pass rushers, like Will Anderson, that guy's a coach out there. He's phenomenal, but he's not a quick twitch guy. He's probably not going to get you 15 sacks a year. And then, you have the Texas Tech, outside backer, edge rusher. And there's questions marks on him also. So, man, to have that second pick, and especially where Nick Caserio sitting right now, because I think I don't know if the season's getting warm or not, but there's certainly a lot of rumblings there. I think he's got a lot of pressure to do this. And listen, he had a chance to trade up for that first pick, and didn't happen. And I think there's a lot of pressure on that as well. So you don't want to screw this one up, but if you're not totally in love with someone, that's where you get stuck.
Jay, NFL insiders seem to all have multiple phones. How many phones do you have? What's the minimum number of phones that an NFL insider is required to have?
I used to have more than one. I got one now, and one of them it was an untraceable number that actually, I shouldn't say untraceable. It went to like some poor lady in Arkansas who would, like, when people try and if anybody ever was trying to trace my number or whatever, or got that number and called down there, or somehow it just got to, it didn't come to me. Let's just say that.
Does that woman have a lot of breaking NFL news?
Can we call that woman?
That she does not want.
Well, no, it was my phone number, but it just traced to her. Somebody tried to trace it. And that was, listen, I had that when I had the Spygate video, and I thought for sure back then my phones were being tapped, and they were trying to get, I was kind of looking at like the head of security for the NFL was part of the Mossad, and he freaking was not. Not even close, but I was paranoid as shit back then.
Jay, when we go off air, stay with us so I can get that number and we can call it. And we can ask that.
I don't have it anymore now.
I want to have her on to see what's on the phone. Yeah.
When you're
back then too, man, we had a phone and a BlackBerry, and then early on you'd have a pager and shoot. I'm kind of dating myself here, but now I'm just down to one.
When you answer the phone, when you're reporting on a story, do you answer unknown numbers? And if you do, do you have a different voice that you answer with? Because I do.
No, I don't answer unknown. I don't answer unknown phone numbers. And none of my guys. Well, I shouldn't say that. 2 of my guys have unknown numbers, or no caller ID, but I know exactly who it is, and I know when they're going to call.
But if you're a little unsure, do you go hello?
Nope.
He doesn't answer.
I don't answer. Absolutely not.
Jay,
hello.
The most interesting team and the most interesting player in the draft.
Most interesting player in the draft is Anthony Richardson, because it's you either hit huge or you completely missed, and I don't know the answer to that because we don't know how he's going to develop. But man, there's a lot to be excited about there if you could hit with him. By the way, I also love Hendon Hooker. I think a lot more than most. And the most interesting team, the draft starts at 2. That's because they could take any one of 4 players or trade out. They're going to try and get out of that spot. And who kind of goes after these quarterbacks and where? Because Seattle could have one, the Raiders could have one, the Colts obviously could have one. Houston could have one. We already know about Carolina. There's a bunch of teams also later on down. The Bucs take one later on in the draft. I think there's going to be a lot of teams who pick up quarterbacks in the first 3 rounds that you may not even think are going to.
Congratulations, by the way. I meant to tell you this on the front end on your engagement because you look at you. You're beaming over there. You have emerged.
It'll go away.
Wow.
Fuck you.
But your journey, it's been a public one. It's been a fascinating one. You have come to grips with vulnerability and sharing. Unbreakable is the name of his book, How I Turned My Depression and Anxiety into Motivation, and you can too. Unbreakable is also the name of his podcast. He believes that mental health help is the reason that he is here with a platform to say important things to people who need it. We've only got a couple of minutes left, but since we talked to you last, where has Unbreakable, the podcast, gone at places you didn't expect, people that you talked to who opened it up?
My God, now getting people just walking over me on the street saying, man, thank you so much. I now know how to deal, talk to my wife. You're giving this word so I could talk to my wife about it, which I didn't know how to do. Or my kid who has ADD, I didn't really understand it so much. And now I do because of your book and your podcast. And just, the way I've been able to, I tell you the biggest difference. And you see, I'm beaming. I've lost 25 pounds because I finally found love for the first time in my life. I didn't push someone away. I didn't sabotage it. And when you're living in the blue, and I made that decision too, I'm going to exist in the blue. And man, all this inflammation comes out of you. I'm happy. And I know now too, I went through that gray. I went through my deepest, darkest tunnels for 53 years. And I'm here to show everybody it's never too late to find happiness and find that blue. But it's rough when you exist in it, but you just can't give up. You got to keep going through. So giving it the words, Dan, has been, and the amount of people that reach out when we do this show saying, man, thank you so much for being someone that's giving it words, that's showing me I'm not alone. Shit, I thought it was just me who was going through something like this. And now I know it's not just me. I'm not alone. And, again, we talk mental health, but we don't give it enough words.
Chris Cody said blue is a sad color to him. We're out of time, unfortunately.
It ain't to me, baby. Gray is a sad color to me. Blue is where I want to exist.
Jay, good talking to you again. I recommend Unbreakable, the book and the podcast. We will check in with you after the draft, sir. Your football information is great. Absolutely. The other work you're doing is inspirational.
Hey, real quick, too, hosting the first round on Fox Sports Radio Thursday night. So if you're in your car, tune in. You get more insight than anywhere else.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ed.
possible that we as a country can't do better than this? How is it possible that all we can get is late 70s, early 80s? Please lead us out of the apocalypse.
It's not great that we seem to be existing in a gerontocracy in general.
Hate those.
A what?
You know.
Jeff Jarvis joins us now. He is a longtime advisor to major media companies. He's a journalism professor at City University of New York. And I wanted to talk to him about many things, but one of them being yesterday's Tucker Carlson news. Thank you, Jeff, for being on with us.
So I guess I'm the gerontology segment here. When you have the old guys in, you have the guy with the white hair come in. But thank you. I'm honored to be here.
Well, before we get to Tucker Carlson, can you explain to me the question I just asked Pablo, but perhaps less polysyllabically, less highfalutin? Can you explain to us why the hell does America have the leadership it deserves, and why can't America do better than this?
It's a good question, yes, but I'll take the winner that I have. I'll take dark Joe Biden now versus the risk of not knowing who it's going to be. He's beat the fascist jerk before. He could do it again. He's old. I like Kamala too. If he retires at some point and she takes over, we get used to the idea of a black woman in the White House. That wouldn't be so bad either.
Who's we? Because I don't think that the country, the entire country would agree with you on that. There seems to be a real division here that is unmistakable, and more of a division than I thought we had when we started all this nonsense a few years ago.
You could call it a division, but I think what's really going on is that we saw the internet-enabled voices who were for too long ignored and not represented and not served in mass media run by people who look like me, old white men, that finally had their place and their voice online. And that is what the old guard, the old white guard of America resented. And Barack Obama winning the presidency brought all that out. Trump gave him permission to be racist in public. So did Fox News. And what I think we really saw was that the internet and Black Lives Matter and such was a reformation, a racial reformation in America. And Trump and January 6th and Fox are the counter-reformation, trying to hold on for dear life to the power that they know they're going to lose and should lose.
But, Jeff, I do wonder all the time, especially after the midterms, which, again, have to credit Joe Biden there with steering the ship towards that outcome. But the point being, I always wonder about whether the memes, like it feels like the culture war memes, whether that stuff, that internet stuff is actually translating to electoral results. And if that, in fact, is the magic of Joe Biden, that he is so not somebody who is swimming and fluent in internet warfare, whereas that seems to be where the right, the Republican Party, has over-indexed.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think he floats above it. But at this point, what's abortion but the biggest meme ever? What's racism but I hate to say it, but now it's degraded as a meme. And so if we look at it that way, I think that when it comes to the majority of America, Biden's on the winning side. Knock wood, I'll light a candle.
Let's get into the Tucker Carlson portion of this. What does it mean that Tucker Carlson and Don Lemon have hired the same attorney?
They're all losers. I don't know. I don't want to put them in the same boat otherwise. I think that the New York Times tried to turn them into a trend today. Cable's in uproar. These are different things. We don't really know why Tucker Carlson was fired. I think the suit by his former producer is probably a large part of this. I think they couldn't fire him before they settled the Dominion case because it would have put them in a weaker position. Maybe they wanted to fire him months ago. I don't know. He was costing them money. He's embarrassing them. And thank goodness he's gone. But that doesn't mean the Fox News is going to reform in any way. It is still run by the single most malign influence in English language democracy, Rupert Murdoch, and his worst son, Lachlan. So we'll see where that goes. Don Lemon was kind of a goofball in some ways, and he and Chris Licht, the new head of CNN, weren't getting along, and they unceremoniously dumped him. Those are two separate stories, I think.
Best guess on what happened with Tucker Carlson. Best guess on whether this came succession style straight from the top.
Oh yeah, I think everything comes from the top at Murdoch land. It's Fox News. He's the boss. He's still in charge. Speaking of gerontology, and they said that Lachlan and the president of Fox decided this. No, Rupert called with his gruff voice and said, "It's time to get rid of him," and they did. And good. I celebrate with everybody else, but something worse will probably go in his place. I don't know what that's going to be. Do you have any guesses about what they could actually?
Well, you're
do
the
in that
expert
time
here.
slot?
I was going to ask you, who do they? Because they did this with Glenn Beck, they did it with Bill O'Reilly, they did it with Tucker Carlson. The entity is stronger than the people that it makes. So, do you have a best guess? Because I don't have an informed opinion on this.
No, I don't. I think Sarah Palin could have been it in time, but she's gone.
Brett
Hannity
Favre
could move up. It could be any number of horrible members of Congress today who would quit to take the slot. Who knows? But the other question is, what's next for Tucker? Does he go Glenn Beck and do his own show? Does he follow your example? And you're supporting, I think, about 25 people on the payroll there. So this could be okay. Or does he run for president, which is truly frightening because God knows he could win.
Seriously?
Well, the same way that Trump could win, in the same insanity of the slave-based.
I believe he could win. I believe he could
college.
win. I'm with Jeff on that. Tucker Carlson's a terrifying candidate. More terrifying than Ron DeSantis, certainly, given the way that DeSantis has campaigned, which is to say incompetently and uncharismatically. Tucker is charismatic to his base.
Well, wait a minute. If that's the case, then is this like Trump being indicted, where if that's the play, then this is good for him?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. When you're dealing in the land of paranoia, you need enemies, and Tucker has more enemies now. His old friends and employer are now enemies too. He's already said he hates Trump, so he can go back on that and hate him again. I'm not saying he will win or would win, but I agree he could win in the insane system we have.
Has there been anybody with this resume of fired by Fox, fired by CNN, fired by MSNBC?
The thing about it is the people have been fired. Oh, the hat trick. Megyn Kelly got fired by 2, right? Or 3. I don't think so. I think he may be the champ. But again, more enemies. Mass media hates me. Mass media can't stand me because I tell the truth about testicles. You got to trust me, says Tucker.
He tells the truth about testicles?
Well, you remember when he was getting them sunburned and doing that.
Oh, that's right. That was the perineum, I think, technically.
You've done that now.
Use the fancy, educated world.
remember.
I'll call it ball sack. That's what he was doing.
He said of Trump, "I hate him passionately." That was disclosed in some of the private texts that emerged from the Dominion lawsuit. Do we know how Tucker Carlson feels about Murdoch and his sons?
Oh, I think he was sucking up to them because they were the bosses. And as we saw, if they didn't like you, they got rid of you. But now it doesn't matter. Tucker Carlson doesn't believe anything. He is a chameleon. He changes shape and color to the need of the moment for him to get attention and money. And so he loved the Murdochs a week ago. He hates them now. It's nothing to Tucker.
Were you surprised by what happened yesterday?
Absolutely. I will admit it. I think the worst thing that journalists do is predict things because we're really crappy at it and we're wrong most of the time. And it's not our job. But this one, I never would have predicted that they'd get rid of Tucker. That's why I'm thinking that it might be something that we don't know out of the suit. Abby Goldman has, I think, 80 recordings of him. It could be bad stuff, or that could all be the excuse. They wanted to get rid of him. He was too much of he had too much power. That's the other way to look at it. Tucker was too successful for the Murdochs.
Did you think he was fireable?
Anybody in the Murdoch world is. Full disclosure, I worked for them years and years ago, and I was the TV critic at TV Guide when they still owned that poor little old institution. And it is a seat-of-the-pants Australian macho company where they make decisions like that. They don't have task forces. They don't think things through. They just do it. So, yes, anybody can be fired there.
You don't think this results in anything, not even a fraction of appreciable change at Fox? Nothing?
No, I don't, because it's still Fox. They'll act like it. They come out with their – look at the Dominion case. They managed to get through that. It was worth $750 million not to apologize, to say that they still uphold the standards of journalism, which is bull. No, it just depends on whether or not they're going to be pro-Trump or pro-someone else. The crazy thing that could happen is they could endorse Tucker for president. That's the way they are, too. They are also nihilistic, cynical chameleons.
Do you think this nets out, though, Jeff, with Fox News being pulled even further towards the extreme right? Because they're going to have to compete with Tucker, who's going to campaign effectively on the fact that he was too real for the alleged home for real America.
I think that's a brilliant point. I think it's exactly right. Where a lot of the commentators are saying, well, now Fox will calm down. No evidence of that at all. I think we looked at the desperation they had through what we learned in Dominion, and they were always afraid of audience being pulled away. You know, people ask, how do we get Fox? What do we do about Fox? Ad boycotts doesn't really affect him much, because what really happens is he's part of the bundle in cable. Must carry fees are where they get their money. As long as they stay there, and what cable company is going to have the guts to get rid of them? They continue to make a lot of money, and they can use whoever they want to do that. And so, to be talked about and to get the audience, you're right. They have to go even more extreme, which is what every Republican politician is doing now. They're going as extreme as they can. Who else can we insult? I mean, in the latest budget talks, taking away money from veterans. Veterans used to be sacrosanct, but not to the right anymore.
Rapid fire. Let's do top 5 worst Tucker Carlson moments. We have less than a minute left, so we got to do this quickly. Number 5, Jeff.
I already used my 5, which is toasted testicles. So I'll say replacement theory is number 5. Number 4 is when January 6th was orderly and sane. Number 3 was vaccination laws are the equivalent of Jim Crow. Number 2 is Tucker saying to Lauren Duca of Teen Vogue that you should stick to thigh-high boots. And number 1 is hit the road, Jack, you're gone, Tucker, for now.
The same top 5 as me.
Okay. I was surprised you were able to do that so quickly off the top of your head. Last thing, you said we're terrible at predictions. You're terrible at predictions. Percentage of chance Tucker Carlson runs for president?
Oh, I think it's now. I'll be eager to hear your panel's views. I think now it's 10%, but the chance that Donald Trump was going to win the presidency was 1%. So I'm scared
Over.
of even that.
Hammer the over.
Jeff, thank you for being on with us, sir. Appreciate the time.
Thank you. I'm honored.
I should mention that we are coming to you from the Elser Hotel. Everyone here raving about it. Everyone who is coming through here and staying in the hotel feels a little bit differently about it than previous arrangements.
It's like being at the hotel inside of the amusement park, and the amusement park is the Heat Arena. It was the best commute I've ever had to and from an NBA game in my entire life.
You walked across the street.
Strolled across the street.
Not a commute. I mean.
Yeah, it's not really a commute.
Didn't even have enough time to stroll, probably.
Yeah. We did.
Pablo has in front of him, speaking of strolling, some of Jake Plummer's mushroom bars. He's going to eat one. He's going to eat one of them now to see how this goes. Do you have any information whether this is just health or psychedelics or what might happen to you before the end of the show if you have one of the? I'm told that Amin begged Jake Plummer to send him some stuff.
Amin on air asked for a big box of this stuff, and Jake Plummer. We also hired him to be our shaman at Meadowlark, which is only a thing I realized that maybe Ricky Williams already had an inside track on, so apologies for maybe trampling the org chart. But this is conflicting signals insofar as it says on the back, each purchase supports responsible psychedelic research through Unlimited Sciences. And then on the front, it says that this is a functional thing that is not going to get me, psychoactively
no psychedelic in it whatsoever. I already had one.
Okay, well, then that defeats the purpose. I was hoping for a payoff.
When did you have it, though?
I don't want it anymore.
Like 30 minutes ago.
Sometimes it takes like 90 minutes to kick in. Yeah.
Dan was trying to build up to this thing, Tony. You just don't have to tell him. You just pretend and go along, and then we go on this adventure together.
Pablo just said that it had no psychedelic things.
Well, I said that was conflicting signals, but here's the ASMR of me opening this bar.
But it's useless now. There is no payoff. In fact, why don't you go eat it in the penalty box?
Okay.
Whoa!
Wow.
Not my fault.
It wasn't Pablo's fault.
What?
Yeah.
I am not going to get any payoff from the having of the psychedelic, so I will remove him, and I will have a much better story in his place, Stugotz. I don't know if you know the story of 33-year-old Drew Maggi. The Pirates are the most surprising story in baseball early season. They are somehow, I think it's 9 or 10 games over 500.
The Buccos.
And Drew Maggi, if you did not see this viral video of his long-winded manager in the minor leagues giving a very long speech that ended with telling Drew Maggi that he is going to the major leagues after 13 years in the minor leagues. It is a fun story. It's the Crash Davis story, Stugotz, because the minor leagues are so tough. We have read recently about finally minor leaguers getting some money, and even that maximum money in AAA is $37,000 a year. So super happy for you, Drew, and thanks for being on with us. Let's just play the video real quick of the long-winded manager surprising Drew Maggi in the clubhouse.
Great pleasure that I get to promote my first person to the major leagues, and someone that is tremendously important to this group, and someone that exemplifies grit, a choice to continue to fight for what he wants in life, and a lot of that is having the right perspective. And so, Maggi, you're going to get an opportunity to do
Drew, you look stunned there in the video.
I got to be honest, not long-winded. I thought that was properly
edited.
done.
No, it was edited. There was a minute and a half before that. Drew, did you know he was talking about you when in the build-up to we're going to send someone to the major leagues?
I didn't. 13 years in the minor leagues, you hear a lot of those speeches, so never, completely unexpected there.
How many years ago did you stop thinking it was about you with those speeches?
Probably like 7, 8 years ago. I mean, I've seen 1,000 of those. So eventually, right there, I was thinking, all right, who we got, who's going, and then when I heard my name, it was, body numb, whole thing.
Did you think it was going to happen for you, or had you really given up anything that resembled hope on it ever happening?
Well, I mean, I've always had hope. I mean, that was, I mean, why I stayed in the game. I mean, it definitely, as the years went on, it came down less and less. Like, you know, maybe I'm just a minor leaguer. Maybe it's just, you know, this is kind of my path. This is what I'm meant to do, kind of play out my minor league career, you know, kind of mentor younger players. And then, you know, I love baseball, so I probably would have stayed in the game. But, you know, deep down was like, you know, there's got to be something bigger, you know, because I kept hanging on. You know, something crazy would always happen to kind of, you know, get me to play in the season, because there was a lot of seasons where, you know, we had prospects or, you know, a lot of guys in the system that the team wanted to promote. So, you know, I was stuck on the bench a bunch, and, you know, something would happen to where I would get a chance to play, and I would play well enough to, you know, kind of, you know, keep me alive for the next season. So it deep down, I had a feeling that, you know, something big's got to come out of this. And, you know, it's crazy. The last 24 hours, 48 hours has been, I mean, I didn't expect any of this.
What has it been?
I mean, just the phone calls, my old teammates reaching out, guys that I haven't talked to in 10 years, that, you know, just flashing back to kind of moments with those teammates where I was, calls to my family, to my friends. I mean, it's been emotional. I've been okay. And then I'm like, I'll think about things like, holy smokes, like this is really happening. You know, I've had to, you know, every day that I wake up, I'm kind of, you know, I got to check the window and look out, because I can see PNC from my window. So every day I have to look out and be like, all right, yeah, this is real. This is really happening. So yeah, it's been a really emotional, really exciting. I mean, I'm on top of the world right now.
Drew, Crash Davis made it 21 days in the major leagues. What's your over under?
Shit, if I had to bet, I mean, I'm an over guy. I never bet under.
Same. Yeah.
Who did you call first, Drew, when you heard?
Well, I called my dad. He didn't answer. You know, Italian family, so everyone's always doing something. So dad didn't answer. Called him again, didn't answer. Called my brother. Then I called my mom, didn't answer. Finally got a hold of my mom, and I was in Double-A at the time. So, you know, she answered, and she's like, hello. I don't know what she was doing, but I'm like, hey, Mom. And, you know, I'd broken down already. So, and she's like, are you okay? And I said, Mom, I'm going up. And she goes, oh, you're going up to Indy? Because Indianapolis is the AAA team. I go, no, Mom, I'm going to the big leagues. And we had a great moment, and she couldn't believe it. She was freaking out. And so that was special.
Who was the most emotional family member?
Bo, probably. I mean, Bo's my brother right under me. I have 5 brothers, so I play with him in college. You know, he played in the minor leagues for 4 years, so he understands how hard it is. And when I saw him on the field 2 days ago, he was flooding. So I was like, geez. So he got me, and he's an emotional guy.
What is the worst part of 13 years in the minor leagues? Like, what are some of the details that people don't understand about what your sacrifice has been?
I mean, I think as you get older, you know, it gets really challenging, because, you know, you're that older guy on the team. You're still doing the bus rides, you know, and you kind of have to mute a lot of it. I mean, when we first went into Altoona this year, we had like a little signing thing before the year, you know, before our game started, and a lot of the fans are like, oh, are you a player coach? Are you coaching now? So, I mean, you just kind of laugh it off, and, you know, you can't let it bother you. But I think that stuff, and then just, you know, the overall sacrifice, you know, I'm in some small city. I mean, relationships are tough to hold on to. You're away from your family. Then there's a million different things you can do in life. So you kind of, as you get older and, you think about, life after baseball, you obviously want to make money and be able to support people. So it just gets more challenging with that. And, your days are also numbered, in every sports, any sport that you play, your days are numbered. So I think just the overall thoughts of that kind of creeping in are probably the most challenging.
You've been in the Major League clubhouse. You've already made an appearance inside.
Yeah, I was in there on Sunday.
And the difference between that and the worst of the minor league experiences?
Everything.
Yeah. I mean, name it there. I mean, there's a sauna. And I walked by, I walked to the bathroom and I looked to my left and there was a sauna and I go, oh my God, there's a sauna in here. I gotta get in there.
What is the worst of the hotels, the worst of the cities, the worst of the bus rides?
I mean, I've been on a 13-hour bus. Had to play that day. A lot of storytelling, a lot of beers going, a lot of cards going on. I mean, hotel rooms can be, some of them smell and there's bugs in some. I mean, then you're rooming with another teammate. So sometimes you don't get the luck of the draw there. Yeah, I mean, everything in the big leagues is what they say. I mean, at least from my experience so far, it's anything, you're in the show.
Have you stolen anything yet from like Major League Clubhouse, or thought like, oh, this is a bunch of free water, let me like hoard this just in case?
Steal everything.
I took a razor day one. I was like,
attaboy.
I mean, they have everything. Cologne. I mean, like, geez, I definitely get my hands on whatever I can.
Cologne. Drew, congratulations. Thank you. 4,494 plate appearances. Hopefully you get the first Major League bat tonight. Thank you, sir.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
we have some people around here who could kill some joy. But David Sampson, after that conversation, looks at me and says, you just interviewed a minor leaguer. And I'm like, well, he's a major leaguer now.
Yeah.
Not for long, he says. Just puncturing, just coming in strong and puncturing a heartwarming story.
He's got a point, though. He's going to be gone soon.
Yeah, but David has no hearts.
For no good reason. It's a heartwarming. Who doesn't like the story of the guy bugs in hotel rooms, 13-hour bus ride, stealing razors and cologne from a major league clubhouse?
I mean, he made himself yawn, Dan.
You know that he had been called up before, right?
No.
Okay. He had been called up
But he didn't get
before.
in a game.
He did not get in a game.
Right.
This is like an Adam Greenberg thing. But B,
wow.
I would just like to say that when you're sitting out in
No
your
one
brand,
knows that reference.
Who is Adam Greenberg?
It's not
Who's that?
exactly.
Billy
like
and I
that.
get it.
Adam
That's it.
Greenberg was a Cub that got called up, and like in his first game or one of his first games, he got hit in the head by a pitch by a Marlin, and it essentially ended his career. And then there was a big kind of promotional thing to get him one last at bat, and I think it was in like 2012 or 2013 where things have kind of like the wheels.
2012.
The wheels had fallen off of the new Marlins Park at that point. It's like, well, how do we get people there? Let's put this guy on the Today Show and give him one last at bat. And I actually went to the game because it worked on me, and I was like, oh, this is great. And then he like struck out on like.
do you
3
remember who
pitches.
pitched to him?
No, who pitched to
The
him?
guy who won the Cy Young Award when it was the Mets and it was R.A. Dickey. R.A. Dickey threw him 3 straight knuckleballs. And I went up to him after. I said, are you shitting me?
3 straight
We had the
knuckleballs.
biggest media. It was unreal. We had Matt Lauer. Everyone's going crazy. Adam Greenberg's dying for one last at-bat.
44 miles an hour.
And there goes knuckleball, strike one. The crowd, we had a big crowd, shockingly true.
Relative.
And he couldn't even foul one off. It was terrible. And that was it. Then we released him.
This is a month into the season. The Pirates are, for whatever reason, they've started well. This isn't a publicity stunt for charity.
This is they just signed Brian Reynolds just now to $106 million over 8 years. Number one, number two. I believe they have a player on the bereavement list, which is a temporary list.
Right.
So you call up a minor leaguer. This is a good story. Bring him up. He's 33.
You just pooped on it. You literally pooped on this.
They already
good
brought
story.
him up. Like,
It's-
why'd we have him on? I mean,
No, he's a great guest.
Right.
Although I couldn't hear because I was distracted in the waiting room
he
waiting
made
for
himself
3
yawn.
hours.
I mean,
Oh wow.
3 hours sitting here.
He's tired. He's tired from the whirlwind that has been the last 48 hours.
Do you want one of Jake Plummer's mushroom bars? This is great, by the way.
They were excellent. A nice little note
Yeah.
of honey and birdseed.
Actually delicious.
Are they magically
but
delicious?
no psychedelic.
Well,
qualities.
give me and Tony,
It's another 30 minutes.
45 minutes, maybe.
David, what did you tackle today on Nothing Personal that nobody else is tackling?
It was so long ago that it's hard for me to remember as it's 12:20. Here's my question.
Are you complaining that we haven't brought you into
No.
the game
It's
early?
exactly what he's doing.
No. Let me be
yes.
clear what I'm complaining about. You don't have to bring me on ever. Just don't say you are and then not.
I did not say I was.
You. The text from you saying be here at 9.
Mm-hmm.
You will show somebody that text to prove that?
Okay.
You just
I'm
say,
happy
don't
to
ask him
have
to
the
come in,
conversation.
give the appearance that he's going to come on. Nothing personal, Dan. I mean,
No, this is not personal. I'm fine. I'm just schwitzy.
Oh.
Because it's 1,000 degrees. There was no food. I missed the parfait.
We need to dose David.
We need to clip
Yes.
David's. Okay.
Please.
He's busted that thing out a few times in the recent days where he just the dismissive. Okay.
I did something on DraftKings and Udoka. That's what I did on Nothing Personal. I reminded people of the story, how I was in somewhere, and Mike and I were on the phone when the issue happened with the Celtics. And the discussion I had this morning is, what is the penalty for off-court issues? Is it a year A.J. Hinch comes back after a year of garbage can and he gets to manage? Alex Cora comes back. But Tillman said it's enough. 1 year for Udoka, and we want you as our coach. And so the question is, what are the morals that owners have when it comes to hiring or bringing back or rehabilitating somebody.
And what is the answer? Because he couldn't come back with the Nets. And wasn't he up for the Atlanta job as well? And it was
Too soon.
It was too radioactive, but a month later or 2 months later, it's not too radioactive?
This story, just for the context, nothing set NBA media group chats on fire like the Ime Udoka suspension. It got to the point where, remember, Steven Jackson was like taping videos in his car saying, "We will never see him again. This is so bad. We will never see," or Matt Barnes was doing this. That show was doing the thing that we were all doing privately, which was gossiping and getting to places that were like disturbing. And all of that disturbing has, over time, because maybe our attention is just so hard to keep track of, it has all evaporated to the point where, and now he's coaching the Rockets, and we have no clarity at all about what actually did or did not happen.
There's going to be a statement when you hire him. If you're a normal owner, which he may or may not be down there, you have to, when you introduce him, you have to be thinking about the opening press conference. There has to be an amount of rehabilitation. There has to be words that both Udoka and Fertitta is going to say. And it'll be interesting to know what it is, because is he going to come clean? Are we going to hear from Nia, his ex-wife?
Well, we've heard from her, and among other things that she has said is she was really mad at the Celtics, at the organization for taking what she believed to be a private family matter and exposing their kids to all of the shame of that. She was, I was surprised to see her go after the Celtics first and foremost publicly.
It's important to keep in mind that the person making the decision on suspending Ime Udoka was fundamentally ownership, yes, to David's point, but also Brad Stevens. And so Brad Stevens, who has the most caricature-like sense of right and wrong in the NBA, literally looks like a guy who goes to church every Sunday. That guy, a lot of the background gossip has been around whether Brad Stevens was scandalized by a thing about NBA culture that other parts of the NBA were clearly, evidently not so scandalized by.
This is what got me in trouble last time. Here we go, Mike. It's a Tuesday. Depending on what the actual story is and what we hear. If what we're talking about it was an affair, we
don't know.
We don't know. We need to know, because all of a sudden he's back with the Rockets, and it would be interesting for me to understand why the Celtics made the decision, why the Nets made the decision. If you recall,
well, we're not going to know, though, because the reporting.
It's nice that you need to know. It doesn't mean you're going to know.
But we've had time to report this, and you would think, given the nature of the scandal and given how public it was, given how important he was seen as being to the Celtics run, you would think that someone would get near the truth, that there wouldn't be a respecting of family privacies here, and we have not gotten that. And furthermore, we had in the middle of that, I don't know if this is necessarily unprecedented, but it's certainly unusual, the Nets wanted to hire him, and Adam Silver said absolutely not. We're not putting that with Kyrie Irving and everything else, and I haven't seen a commissioner do a lot of that.
It's one of the most remarkable smotherings, removing the oxygen from the room of this story such that people just stop talking about it. And now they're testing the water again. And whether this is, again, we talked about Kawhi Leonard being so inconspicuous, so quiet that it is conspicuous. This is that story to me. It is too quiet, and that is suspicious.
Testing the water to me is the trial balloon. The trial balloon is what the Nets did. That's testing the water, where you say we have an opening and we think he's favored. What the Rockets did is went from no one's talking about him to he's hired. I'm not sure that I understand where you'd say that's a balloon. I view that as a fait accompli. Now they have to do the explanation. I always like the balloons.
They're in the water now. To your point, they've been watching how we've been talking about this. The NBA, by the way, the NBA's criminal justice system, the NBA discipline system, is very much licking a finger and putting it in the wind and seeing who's going to get mad at them. And they're doing it right now, and they're going to pay attention to, are people mad about this? And that will inform how this unfolds from here.
The NFL does the same thing. Major League Baseball does the same thing. The amount of finger licking done in corporate America, in the sports world, would stagger you, because people are so, especially with social media, what you guys talk about, people listen. And they want to know what your views are. And the fact that business decisions are made based on people who aren't actually in the room, but we all think we're in the room, it would upset most people, but not the commissioners.
Did this start with the NFL deciding that it had an image problem, and Roger Goodell, who has come by great fame and power and a contract that is very lucrative, as part of image cleaning up optics, decided that sports leagues are going to be moral epicenters and make up the rules as they go along in shifting tides and climates that make it so in one case, if he's sent to New Jersey, the commissioner steps in and does something that you don't see a lot in business, where he says, you will not do that. The Nets will not do that to this league. I am not allowing you to hire the personnel you want. I am taking the power from this owner and his ability to hire who he wants. And then a few months later, it's okay because blank.
I think the image thing started in the NBA. David Stern, if you remember Malice at the Palace, that was a huge moment for the NBA when David Stern said, we cannot have this. We cannot have this sort of violence with players. We are a team we are a league dependent on revenue.
But that happened on television on a court. The legislating of moralities is something that I'm not used to sports leagues and commissioners doing before Goodell.
The NBA did this to, and people here make fun of me for always beating this drum. They did it to Sam Hinkie, tanking. They talked too much, apparently, allegedly, because they talked to me. They talked too much about tanking, and they deposed Sam Hinkie. They took a general manager out of his job. That is, to me, the lineage
for doing his job poorly,
of puppet
though,
mastering.
But for doing his job poorly, that was not
to their view, to their taste. It was poor and it was offensive. But again, this is another argument. I believe that he was actually just being hyper-competitive, but I digress.
You are so in the tank for Sam Hinkie. Who hasn't? Where is he now? Where is this? You've staunchly defended.
More
him.
like Sam Stinky. The mushrooms kicked in yet?
You don't want me to book him, then?
Stugotz's weekend observations are going to be in the post-game show. Rex Ryan has declared that the New York Jets are Super Bowl contenders, and Dallas Mitchell on Twitter says he has declared this looking like someone put a spray tan on a honey-baked ham. Because he does look exceptionally bronze, unusually bronze with white hair on ESPN. But New York right now is very excited. Stugotz is very excited because the Jets have made an acquisition and the Knicks are up 3-1 in the playoffs. One of the few surprises I think we've seen so far in the NBA playoffs is the New York Knicks being up 3-1 on Cleveland.
I'm not certain that many people are surprised by that. I think it's the Heat over the Bucks is probably
yes,
the big
there
surprise.
haven't been that many surprises. Yes, of course. It is so.
But this is a fun time to be a New York sports fan, and it's been a while. Like, my teams at the same time have never been this relevant and this good. Like the Mets, the Jets, the Islanders are about to get knocked out, but the Jets are relevant. The Jets have a quarterback. The Jets actually won an off season. The Mets have the highest payroll in baseball, and they're actually pretty good. I mean, and the Knicks are about to make it to the second round of the NBA playoffs.
Yeah.
I mean, it feels like the 90s again.
To Stu's point, prior to the Nets getting swept out, it was the first time since 1994 that the Rangers, the Devils, the Islanders, the Nets, and the Knicks were all in the playoffs simultaneously. And then, as Stugotz pointed out, things in the other sports, Yankees, Mets, Jets, and even Giants have a fair amount of excitement around them.
At the beginning of this series, the NBA was probably rooting for Giannis, right? You want the high seed to move on. But at this point, the league has to be rooting for Knicks Heat, right? Like that. Is that just a local thing? Like that would get the nation excited.
I mean, you get two major markets, Miami and New York.
Miami's not that major, Stu. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but it's bigger than Milwaukee.
I mean, it's
But a
top-
rivalry.
Top 15.
It's top
market.
15?
Yeah.
No, I'm not poo-pooing where we live. I was here.
And outside of Celtics-Lakers, what are the rankings of rivalries? I know I might be, a little thinking.
It's an old rivalry. It was a long time ago that the Knicks were any kind of relevant. It's been 20 years.
They did play in the playoffs, I think, in 2013, but this would feel different because the Knicks would be favored in that series as opposed to when.
In a Knicks Heat series, this second round right now?
And also, that was a first-round series in 2013.
No, but today, if the Knicks get past the Cavs and the Heat get past the Bucks,
yeah, the Knicks would be favored.
Oh, I would think it would be even, maybe even a little toward the Heat.
But that's why this one's more exciting than the last time the Heat played the Knicks, because that was when we had LeBron and everybody knew the Knicks.
That
didn't
Knicks
have a
team was
chance.
good though. They had Melo, they had Amari
But
Stoudemire.
nobody thought they had a chance.
They celebrated with confetti when they avoided
We
the
are
sweep.
a generation removed. A generation. There are 20-year-olds in New York who have never seen the Knicks matter at anything, which is why they go so crazy in the streets every time they win a playoff game. Mike, we have sound right here, right? Last year they won a playoff series, and
so this all started 2 years ago when the Knicks won a playoff game. And we had a spike in COVID again because the Knicks won a playoff game, and people could not contain their elation and their excitement over the Knicks. And Bing Bong TV, which Pablo, as a native New Yorker, can explain the sensation that was Bing Bong. One of the instrumental characters in Bing Bong TV went very viral with a certain clip. KD, don't you regret not coming to the Knicks?
Yeah, look, they show up outside of the Garden on 8th Avenue, and they are the embodiment of what people have mostly joked about, which is that to be good at basketball in Manhattan, New York City, is to be atop the world. And this has been a farce for a very long time, James Dolan being the biggest reason. But after games, and this started really with the Trae Young Hawks thing, I think, that's when it peaked. You would get stuff like this.
That's a fan base that's never won.
And that's the same guy. They tracked down the original.
Oh, Bing Bong guy was trying to sell NFTs this past year. It's been fascinating to watch how he's been dealing with the Knicks being good again.
But imagine this type of energy in the second round, having not just won a playoff game, but having won a playoff series.
And now against the Heat, which is the thing that, again, I was born in 85. These people look like they might have the earliest flickers of memory of what it was like, Dan. When, Pat Riley used to coach the Knicks.
Pat the Rat.
The Rat. Then he goes to the Heat. Like, the DNA of this is still very much alive in this series if they choose to find it.
That was one of the worst days of my life as a fan when Pat Riley defected to the Heat. I couldn't believe it. I was a New Yorker, and how could anyone from New York...
You had a few good years of Jeff Van Gundy, though, right after.
Yes, absolutely.
I understand, though.
He was like Eric Spoelstra before Eric Spoelstra was Eric Spoelstra. He was an assistant, and he came out of, I guess, what you would consider to be potentially sort of nowhere. And he was outstanding. But the image of a New Yorker hanging on a Miami Heat player, the way the image of Jeff Van Gundy hanging on Alonzo Mourning's leg, that is something that hurts because it was embarrassing as a Knick. We don't do that. Just like that sound, as a Knick fan, I'm embarrassed by that video. Actually.
Oh, I'm not.
I am. I don't want that. I want to be in a winning city where we don't celebrate a first-round playoff.
Well, Pat Riley took that with him from New York and New York basketball a quarter century ago. It's been a quarter century.
He's more known for the Heat than the Knicks, and forget the Lakers. This is the Showtime coach, and people don't think about him that way.
I don't think, when you say this, Chris Cody, I don't know, you were a child when these rivalries, you were becoming a sports fan for the first time when your dad was covering the series of Pat Riley against the New York Knicks, but that was 25 years ago. The Knicks have been so starved. They've been calling it Mecca since then. They've been calling Madison Square Garden Mecca. They've thought they're going to get every single free agent, and they got Melo and traded everything to get him and then got the confetti from the ceiling, one playoff victory. But in terms of nowhere franchises, we just talked earlier about the Jets having the longest streak of losing here without making the playoffs anywhere in professional sports. It's been a really dried up quarter century for the New York Knicks. And that series, I believe, that had the fight in it where Alonzo Mourning had on his ankle Jeff Van Gundy.
There were so many fights. There were so many fights.
All
and
the
moments.
time.
You had the P.J. Brown flipping Charlie Ward. You had Jeff Van Gundy holding on to Alonzo Mourning.
Chris
You had
Childs was doing stuff.
You had Chris Childs being
The
an
players,
agitator.
They were all suspended for Game 7. There was a rule that you couldn't suspend everybody because then we'd have to have played on the Knicks. So they split the suspensions between Games 6 and 7, and they never told us how they decided who would be 6 and who would be 7. And we thought it was like the Ewing lottery envelope.
Hardaway had a big game in that series. Anthony Carter had a winner. Clarence Weatherspoon missing a shot after
Allen Houston dropping
Oh,
it
the
in.
Allen Houston shot. Can we not?
Ugh.
Can we not talk about that?
That was May of '99.
Good times.
I was left alone in the hospital. I had an appendectomy, and my mother and stepfather came to see me to make sure I was okay, and then went to the Knick Heat game.
Did you make it?
Hello.
Billy, go walk to the Torch of Freedom.
Oh,
please.
that was funny, man. Come on.
What's funny about did you make it when he's sitting right here?
No one else was concerned about
That's
him.
the funny thing. He's sitting right there.
That's the joke. It went over here.
Okay. It was so complicated,
level, man.
nuanced,
Yeah.
and layered that it represents a generational comedic genius that I simply can't fathom.
And meanwhile, you're rewarding him with lunch.
I'm sending him across the street.
Oh, we got tacos today after I saw.
I'm sending him
crushed two.
across of the street to the Torch of Friendship because we have not used that quite enough in the last couple of days. We haven't used this studio enough with all of its tentacles. Why are you still here?
Because I feel like the Torch of Friendship is something two people should go to together.
Take Stugotz with you.
Oh, wow.
Go ahead. You can walk holding
and get there in
hands.
exactly 3 minutes.
Yes. Feel free to get there as fast
My day is done.
as
Thank you,
humanly
Dano.
can. You got weekend observations, huffing and puffing and sweaty that you have to do in the last segment. What did you learn, Pablo, about Elon Musk's Twitter activity last night?
This is a thing that never fails to amuse me because I have learned that pretty much every powerful person has at least contemplated starting a burner account. And Elon Musk allegedly took a screenshot of his little console on what his Twitter app is like, and it revealed that he has an alternate account. There was a an avatar of a different image that is not his that you get if you have a secondary account. And Internet Salutes, of course, immediately went on a worldwide avatar hunt to find the account that matched it. And they found that account in Elon's own mentions often. And he is basically his own simp. He is simping for Elon Musk. He is essentially, allegedly, cosplaying as a child. He is asking very weird and uncomfortable and increasingly disturbing questions. All of which is to say that, good job selling to that guy.
Have you ever been to a restaurant because of the reviews, or used a company because of the reviews that you see online? Anybody?
Yes.
Any idea how those reviews get there?
Money.
I'm just. I'm
Are you
literally
saying
asking
you're
if
saying
you
there's
know.
sock puppetry is rife within everything on the internet?
I'm just telling you that when you have polls that you do, or studies that you do, or you want good reviews for your product, you arrange it so it happens.
Are you suggesting that we have manipulated the results of our own original poll question today? Is the thumb the most important finger?
I am merely saying that is not worthy of manipulation, but some things
Is
are.
Elon Musk a fool?
No. Yeah, the biggest
Yes.
fool.
Whoa. Absolutely, he is a fool.
Yeah.
$44 billion.
Absolutely.
He's a fool.
If he wants to
Fool of
spend
money.
$44 billion to buy a company and then run it himself, why does that make him a fool? Listen, I don't like him either, but if he's got $44 billion to spend, let him spend it however he wants.
But he's killing the company.
Then let's go to a different company.
And kill that too?
No, us.
Oh.
Are we talking about Twitter or Meadowlark right now? I'm losing track.
Did Chris Cody just say that's a lot of money to $44 billion? That was your contribution?
More like Elon must fly private. Good night, everyone.
What a crew you have.